This patch, Miliastra added a massive amount of new UI elements and image assets, and honestly, this is something we've needed for a long time. But beyond all the pretty images, buttons, and effects, I think one of the most important new components in this patch is actually the new floating interaction page. Now, I still think the best way to guide your players is through intuitive design, like putting something shiny and have the player go pick it up. That said, having a central information hub is still incredibly useful. Sometimes players just need a place where they can check the rules, read the objective again, or understand what different mechanics actually do, and the new floating interaction page is amazing for that. Now, I did clickbait this a little bit, because yes, technically you still need to use Nodegraph to open the page in the first place, but once the page is opened, if your goal is just to display information, you don't need to build a bunch of extra node graphs for every single button, tab, or visual change. The component already comes with a lot of built-in tools. You can turn elements on and off, switch between different states, and update variables that live entirely inside the component itself. And that's what we're focusing on today. How to make a clean, good-looking, information-focused menu using the floating interaction page with no node graph beyond the one needed to pull it up. So first, let's create our floating interaction page. To do that, go to Manage UI Control Group, then UI Control Group Library, then Add UI Control Template, and select Floating Interaction Page. If you go into Function, you can make the page pause the game when it opens in single player, just like the deck selector. You can also add sound effects and set which component the controller will select first when the page comes up. And inside style, you can change the background or disable it completely. We are touching neither of those for this tutorial. Instead, we are going to be focusing on the page container, which is where we actually add content to the floating page. Once we click Edit Details, it sends us into the floating interaction page editor. And if we click Add Container Control, you'll notice a few new components here, like text window, tab, and single choice window. At least for now, these components are exclusive to the floating interaction page, so you won't find them in the normal UI editor. For the first part of this tutorial, we'll keep it simple. Just add a text window, then put some random text inside. And now we can exit the page editor and go back to the control group library, so we can save this as a template that we'll pull up later. To actually open this page in-game, we need to create a new node graph under Entity Node Graph. Inside that, add one of the new nodes called Show Floating Interaction Page. Then we'll bind this to a when tab is selected event node, so we can open the page through a tab selector. The tab selector returns the character, so for the player entity input, connect it through getPlayerEntity to which the character belongs. After that, paste the floating interaction page index into the node, and save the node graph. We'll leave initialize list data blank for now because we haven't added any list-based components yet. Finally, let's make a magical torch. Add a tab selector to it and attach the node graph we just made. Now, if we go into test play, you can see the page opens correctly, and there we go. We successfully pulled up our floating interaction page with the text window showing inside. For the final version of this tutorial, we want to make a multi-tab menu. But for the second step, let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, we're just going to add the basic components, starting with the background. For that, add an image. Then for the asset resource, we'll look under the surface, color set. Here, we want to filter for 3x3 grid. These are assets that can stretch both horizontally and vertically without making the edges look weird. I like this one here because it looks a little bit like a piece of paper. Then we'll adjust the size so it fits properly on the screen. To make the menu look a little more interesting, let's duplicate this image. Make the duplicate slightly larger, then switch it to an asset that feels more like a book cover. So now we have the main page layer and a slightly larger cover layer behind it. With the background done, let's also adjust its position and color so it fits better with the background. Finally, let's add a tab component. Go into Style, change it to Vertical, bring it to the front, and use one of the presets with a background. After that, go to Function, find Tab Item Configuration, and click Edit Details to open the tab editor. Since this menu will have 3 different tabs, we'll create 2 additional tabs. Then we'll name them Book, Power, and Loadout. After that, we'll place the tabs between the page layer and the cover layer, so they look more like actual bookmarks sticking out of the menu. And once all of that is done, we can exit the page editor and save the changes. Now, if we try to load into the game, you'll notice the tab does not actually show up, and that's because this tab component works similarly to the card selector. It needs an input list before it can load properly. To fix that, we need to go back to the node graph we used to open the page. Inside the Show Floating Interaction page node, we need to fill out initialize list data, which takes a dictionary. So let's connect that to an assemble dictionary node. And for now, we only need one variable inside it. For the key, go back to the page editor and copy the index of the tab component. Then for the list, we need to provide which tabs should be enabled when the page opens. The number here matches the tab ID, which you can find under the function tab. For example, if I only give it the number 2, then when I open the page, it will only show the power tab. And power will also be automatically selected. But for now, we want all 3 tabs available, so we'll fill in 3 values, 1, 2, and 3. Now, when we run the game and open the page again, all 3 tabs show up properly. Now, the default tab style doesn't really fit the book feeling, especially when it's selected. So, for this next part, let's replace the tab's default look with our own custom asset. First, we'll create a quick mockup directly inside the page editor, just so we can figure out the look we want. Add an image, then move it to the same position as the current tab. For the image asset, I'm gonna use this one here because it already looks pretty close to the book cover asset we used earlier. After that, add a text box on top of it, just so we can preview what the final tab label will look like. So now let's turn this design into an actual reusable asset. Unfortunately, we can't copy this directly out of the floating interaction page editor. So for now, just take note of the image settings and the text settings. Once we have those, exit the page editor and go to the asset window, then recreate the same design there. After that, click Create Asset Group, then Save as Template, and name it Menu Text Style. Now, to make this asset usable for multiple tabs, we need to use a formal variable. This is a new type of variable they added alongside the floating interaction page. You can open it by clicking Formal Variable Management, either inside the page editor or outside of it. For this tag asset, we only need one variable, which we will call tag name. Now that the variable is created, we can replace the text with that variable, the same way we usually insert variables into strings. And with that, we now have a reusable custom asset for our tab labels. Next, let's bind it to the actual tab. Go back to the page editor and select the tab component, then go to Style, and change the style mode from Preset Style to Custom Style. After that, create a new style and name it Tag Style. Then go back to Function, open the tab editor, and set all of the tabs to use the new tag style. We'll also set the second tab to display as selected, just so we can preview how the selected state looks while editing. Now let's go back to Style and select our custom asset for the default state. You'll notice the tab looks like it's getting cropped on the left side. To fix that, adjust the location offset and move it a bit further to the right. Once it's positioned correctly, copy that same setup to the rest of the states. Next, let's set up the hover status asset. For hover, I want the tab to feel like it's slightly popping out. So let's rotate it by -1 degree. For press, I usually like making the button slightly smaller than normal while keeping the same general hover look. So we'll keep the hover setup but change the scale factor to 0.95. And finally, for selected, we'll use basically the same setup as the default state, but make it stick out a little further. We can do that by simply reducing the X offset. The last thing we need to do here is to add the formal variable onto the tabs. Let's back to the tag, open function, and go back into Edit tab details. Then select the Book tab and click Link Formal Variables. Choose the tag name variable, and in the text box type Book. Then do the same thing for the Power tab and the Loadout tab. Save the floating interaction page again, then go into Test Play. And as you can see, our tab is now using the custom style with the proper text on it. Now, an important thing to understand about formal variables is that when we use formal variable on the tag, it actually creates multiple versions of that variable. The first version belongs to the tag asset itself. For the asset on the tag, the variable value will always be whatever you set in formal variable configuration when you link it to the tab. That's why each of the tab display their own variable. But there's also other copies of that variable which can be used by other components on the page. Let's create a new text box and adjust it to be the title. Turn on Monitor Control Formal Variable, then connect it to the tab component. After that, add the same variable into the text box content. This version of formal variable responds to the tab component. Once that's done, exit the page editor and save the changes. Now when we open the page in Switch Tabs, you can see the page title changes with it. Next, we'll make them switch the actual page content. Now, the easiest way is to create separate page containers. Let's first make one container for each main tab. One for book, one for power, and one for loadout. After that, we'll move the existing text content out of the original container and into the book page container. This way, the book content is now properly grouped under the book page. Next, let's set up the power page container. Inside it, we'll add a new text window that shows the player's current battle power. Since this is supposed to be the main focus of the page, let's make the text much bigger, then adjust the color so it fits better with the background. Now, for the battle power number itself, we will use a variable. Let's exit the UI editor for now and go to the combat preset. Here, we'll add a new player variable called battle power. And because we're legally obligated to do this, let's give it a value over 9,000. After that, go back to the page editor and insert the battle power variable into the text box. Now we have two actual pages, book and power. So let's go back to tab, open function, and turn on control container visibility. This is where we decide which container should show or hide depending on the selected tab. For the book tab, we show the book page container and hide the others. And we will do the same thing with power and the loadout page. Once that's done, save the page again and start another test run. And this time, the tabs are finally switching the actual content on the page. For the next step, let's create a secondary tab inside of the loadout page. To keep this part simple, we're just going to use preset style 7. It's a little ugly, but it's good enough for what we need here. We'll also turn on center if content doesn't fill, so the tabs stay nicely centered. Now let's go into edit details, add one more tab, and change their names and preset text. For this menu, we'll use weapon and skill. Also, don't forget to go back to the Nodegraph and add this new tab component to initialize this data. Now for the actual content inside these subtabs, we're not going to use additional page containers. And to show why, let's quickly make an example container. If we set it so weapon turns the container on and skill turns it off, you'll notice something kind of annoying. When the menu first opens, the content initializes visible, and it will also not turn off properly when we switch between upper tags. To fix that, we need to manually set up the initial visible container. Before, this was mostly handled automatically because our main tabs were already showing and hiding the page containers. But now, because we have a secondary tab inside one of those containers, we need to make sure that container starts hidden. Otherwise, it can accidentally enable the example container when the menu first opens. And to fully fix it with containers, we'd also have to add that container to every relevant tab controller. Not just the subtabs, but also the upper level tabs. So every main tab selection knows when to hide it. And yeah, that works. But if the content you're switching with subtabs is pretty simple, this can become way more work than it needs to be. Instead, we can keep the content inside the same container, and use the control status setting to just switch the visibility of each individual component. For smaller UI pieces, that's much easier to manage. You only need the subtabs to control the components they actually care about. And there we go. Now we have a fully functional multi-layered menu. We have main tabs, subtabs, changing page content, custom tab assets, and selectable buttons. And the best part is, this entire thing only uses one Nodegraph, which is just the one used to open the menu. Everything else is handled inside the floating interaction page itself. Hopefully this gives you a good starting point for building your own menus. You can use this for tutorials, rule pages, loadout screens, stage information, or basically any situation where the player needs a clean place to read and interact with the information. And as always, this has been Steamed Bun X. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.